doing? I hope you're really well and have had a good week so far. Here I am with the next musing video, which is about how to help to awaken others. Okay, so often as light workers or awakened souls, we feel really called to help other people. And also what we may find is that we actually draw people to us, so these people actually come into our lives and they are seemingly kind of asking us to help them. So we might find that we're attracting people to us more and more. I always used to find, before I realised that I was a light worker, that people would actually tell me a lot of their problems and come to me and confide in me. And I think that one of the things I've been asked quite a few times by people, I haven't actually had anybody ask me specifically to do this as a musing video, but loads of people have come to me for advice, like on this general topic, which is like, how do I awaken others? Often it's in relation to things like a soulmate or a twin flame, somebody's wanting a romantic relationship with, or they're wanting to move into a union with someone, but that person is maybe not as awakened as they maybe feel the other person feels they need to be. So it's like, well, what can I do? How can I help someone? How can I make things better? I'm just watching because Freya is climbing in between the lights, so this could have a disastrous consequence, but we'll see. Anyway, so how do we awaken others? I have got 8 ways sorry, me keep watching her. Freya, what are you doing? Come here. Say hello to everyone. Say hello, I'm a little monkey and I like to cause disruption during videos. Yes. Oh, you're a good girl, really, aren't you? Right, so I won't be distracted anymore, hopefully. Right, so here we go with the 8 ways. I forget which way round you see it. 8 ways for you to help awaken other people. The first thing is set a good example. The old cliche, actions speak louder than words, is so key, I think, really, in lots and lots of topics that we're going to cover in the Musing series, but particularly here. If people see you and feel you living in that space of joy and love and abundance, you don't have to say anything directly to them about it. They can see and feel it. They look at you in your life, you're in joy, you're happy, or when you're not in joy and when you're not happy, you're dealing with that differently as well. So you're setting a really good example to other people. The second point is that when we are starting to feel awakened ourselves, we get very enthusiastic about being awakened and everything seems so much better and we're having such a happier life. And there is a temptation to try and push this on other people, advise them towards it. So they may not be asking you for advice, but you'll be saying, why don't you read this book? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Okay? Don't advise people. If you want to help to awaken people, what you really need to be doing is connecting with people, listening to people. Most people don't listen to people. When they're listening, they're actually just waiting for their turn to speak. So really listen to people. Give them your attention, which is going to be something that they don't often get. And whilst you're listening to them and whilst they're talking to you and you're talking about the person or about that person's experiences, really emphasize what's good about them, what they're doing well, so help them through the conversation to focus on those things. So really focus on that, and most importantly, don't advise them. The third point is love and accept people the way they are. The whole point of being more awakened is that you can love and accept yourself exactly the way you are. So you need to demonstrate this in the way you communicate with people, okay? So you need to be loving and accepting them exactly as they are. So be careful that in trying to awaken them, you're being unawakened yourself. So really love and accept people as they are and try to empathize with people. Don't sympathize, empathize. Sympathizing with someone is patronizing and makes the other person feel less. If you say, oh, poor you, I can't imagine how bad that would be. That sort of thing would never happen to me, is the subtext to that sort of attitude towards someone. Okay, but when we really empathize, we can imagine how it's feeling. We've maybe got a similarly, we've had a similar difficulty in our life, you know, and we can really empathize. So we're on the same level with that person, and we are understanding where they're coming from. The fourth thing is to create an aura of an approachability around you. Okay, make people want to come to you because you are open, you're in your heart, you're friendly. You know, so this is kind of a little bit like point one, you know, about being, setting a good example, and that people can feel your sort of aura, if you like, and the energy around you. Okay, so really be very approachable, be kind, be the first one to speak, be the first one to say a kind word, be the person to see the good in all people. Now, by that I don't mean be a doormat and ignore negative qualities in people. That's not what I mean at all, because the reality is people do display negative qualities, as we know, but it's just, I think you understand the balance here. We're not going to let people punch us in the face or be really rude to us and just act like it hasn't happened. But what we can do is when we're going about, we can be looking for positive qualities and having a very open nature. The other thing with this is that if you are very open and people can see that you've got this great life and you've really changed your life and things are going really well for you, because you're open, because you're relaxed, because you've got a friendly face, you're smiling, you're kind of laid back, you're very down to earth, you're very real, people feel like they can come up to you and say, hey, what are you doing differently? Your life seems amazing now. You know, so then people want to come and talk to you. The fifth thing is so important. Don't get caught in other people's dramas. So, say for example, you've got a friend or a colleague or someone you know who comes to you and asks for advice. There's a very big difference between empathizing and getting caught up. Okay, if you listen to too much of the story, if you get too involved, particularly if you're an empath and you can feel their feelings as well, and you're getting really, really sucked into it, you can't, it's almost like if you imagine, like in terms of energetically, I don't mean in terms of as a person, you may be here and this person may be down here, you know, and other days it'll be the other way round. But what I'm trying to say is when you're trying to awaken someone and they're maybe have got a very low level vibration thing going on and they're very upset and negative and they're kind of like, you know, struggling around down here trying to get out of fear. You can't help them by coming down and lifting them up, because once you're down there, it's like quicksand. You can't get out either. So be careful with that, okay? You can't help someone by going down and lowering your vibration so much that you are so understanding of where they are that you suddenly find you're crying, you're suffering, you're in pain as well now. You know, that won't help them and it won't help you. So there is a little bit of a difference between being understanding and empathetic and not getting too emotionally involved, because that's not going to help those people to awaken. Even though I think for a lot of people, myself included, it can sometimes feel like you're being a little bit mean. But actually not getting too indulgent with the story and going over and over the story and getting dragged into the story is a good thing, because actually we know, and the person often knows themselves as well when they're feeling a lot better, that actually keep rehashing and going over and over the story round and round and round and suffering in this low vibration actually doesn't help the situation. The sixth thing is be concise about your awakening. I'd almost say like it's quite a good idea to have a few key points. You know, I listened to this speaker on YouTube, I read this book and this book, this is what started me off, here's a little story. You know, be concise so that and be prepared. So then if and when people come to you and say, you know, Kat, how did this work for you? How did this happen for you? You're not saying, right, well, let me tell you, 15 years ago, I got up one morning, you see where I'm going with this, you know, where it's like a great big long story, or you're like, I don't really know where to start, because both of those stories both of those things that I was trying to demonstrate there reflect the fact that actually a spiritual awakening can be incredibly complex over a lot of years and can be so rich and broad that it can be quite difficult, if and when put on the spot, to actually to be that sort of beacon, if you like. They're asking you to be like a torch along their path. So you don't want to be sort of in a position where you don't know what to say or you can't think where to start. It's not a big deal if you can't, but I just think if you're wanting to awaken others, be prepared, be concise and say it simply. I would read this book, and this book. This is what happened to me. This is what I found out. This is what really helped me. And be concise and be clear, because then actually there's a really good chance people are going to go away and buy that book or do what it is that you did. And the thing is that you don't need to press that point. They've been drawn to you to ask you for a reason. They may or may not take you up on it. If they don't, it's because they weren't supposed to take you up on it. But they're maybe going to hear it 5 times, and on that 5th time, they're going to go and do it. You might only be the 3rd person, you know, so recognise that as well. The 7th point is kind of like an add-on to the last point, really, which is don't dumb down or dim your light. Be the beacon. Be the shining light. Be who you be who you truly are. You know, shine out your light, be authentic, be who you really are, regardless of who you're around. Now, that's not always easy. I do appreciate that. And I can't say I always do it because that would be a lie, to be quite honest. But I try to do it as much as I can, just to be who I really am, because then people will, this is going to help people. This goes back to the point 1, be a good example, you know. However, what I want to go on and say is that people will snub you at first. Some people who are in a very different place vibrationally, you're over here, they're over there, you know, will maybe think, this person is strange or different or whatever, you know, and that's fine. You may find that people come to you and you feel like these people have been drawn into your life for you to help awaken them, or that's how it feels to you. But they may be really rude to you about your suggestions, and they may really snub you. It's going back to those 5 things that I talked about on the last point. You may give that person really clear, concise, helpful information, and they may tell you you're an idiot, because they are not going to realise that this is good guidance for them until the 5th person tells them, and you're only the 3rd. Okay, so just be aware of that, and don't let other people's opinions about where you are, who you are, and what you're doing throw you off course. Okay, understand that even sometimes, even when someone is being rude to you about what you believe or think or feel or what your life and what you're doing, actually them being rude to you and you not necessarily accepting it. I mean, if someone's rude to you and you want to say that's not okay to me, that's fine. But what I'm saying is that experience the 2 of you are having is part of your growth and development and part of their growth and development. And there's nothing going wrong here. The last point, which is the 8th point, is actually one that I'm sure I heard Louise Hayes say briefly in a talk once that I either saw or listened to or something. And she sort of said, you know, if someone comes to you with a problem or comes to you and asks you for advice or says, hey, you know what, your life looks amazing now. What have you done? What can I do it as well? And you offer them a solution, you offer them advice, and they won't take it, walk away. You know, doesn't mean that you're going to reject them if they come back and ask again. They may come back and ask 10 times. Fine. But don't try to force it on someone. Don't try to push it on someone. And I think that most of you are probably thinking, well, I wouldn't do that anyway. But I think that what can happen is if we've got someone close to us or a colleague and we get into a lot of discussion about someone's difficulty, and then they say, well, what do you think I should do? And they seem quite open, and then we give them help, we give them advice to try and awaken them, to try and help them, and then they are not convinced, so they start arguing against it, it's so easy to get drawn into that argument. And that's a little bit like point, I just need to look at my notes, which point was it? Yeah, point 5, which was don't get caught up in other people's dramas. You know that it can get to that point where you're kind of drawn in a little bit, you've got that slightly lower vibration, you know, you're slightly spiraling down, and so then you start to try to convince this person or argue for the point for this person, okay, to the person, sorry, and you're trying so hard to get them to listen. You think, oh, they're so close, you know, to kind of getting it, and I want to help, and that's honourable, it's beautiful, it's loving, but you know what, it's not the best way, I don't think. So if somebody does come to you for advice and they ultimately don't like it, reject it or whatever, walk away, because you are here as this shining bright light, okay? You are awakened or partly awakened, or else you wouldn't be watching this. You feel you have a calling to want to help to awaken other people, which is fantastic. If you're going to awaken other people, you've got to feel in a good space yourself. If you're constantly trying to force it on other people, or you're struggling with people who are finding it difficult, and you haven't got the ability to say when someone doesn't take the advice or isn't prepared to shift from their vibration, if you continue to go there, it's just going to drain you, and then you're going to be no help to yourself or anybody else. So it's just about being healthy and being responsible and being understanding of the situation that you're in. So just assess the situation and say, do you know what, I'm not getting anywhere with this person. This person's not ready. You know, I love you. I'm here for you. Change the subject. Walk away. You know, it's not about rejecting the person. It's just about being healthy and taking care of yourself, because remember, you are your number one priority. Okay, and keeping yourself awakened, growing, enjoy, learning, experiencing is the key here. Because if you are not in a healthy, good place, then you are in no position to awaken others anyway. I hope you found this video really helpful. I love you guys so much, and I'll speak to you on the next video.